And now I'm here with Labonida Hui. She is the curator of the show at Westchester Arts Council that is there until August 11th. But she's also the founder of a very interesting organization called RARE. Welcome, Labonida.
I'm happy to be here.
And
Thank you,
so
Gigi.
now that I've said that acronym RARE, you're going to have to tell us what it means.
Yes, RARE stands for Rare Animals Really Endangered, and it's a company I started about 2 years ago, and it's really about kind of implementing awareness through the emergence of art and science to kind of, educate both more of the younger generation, but also the older, to be a little bit more conscious of our decisions.
Okay, and so how does this work now? You're involved in art, but it would be about these endangered species. So that's why this show at Westchester is...
Yes. That's the whole unique aspect of it. It's really, although we do focus more on endangered species, it's kind of utilizing art as a vehicle to really bring about that awareness.
Okay.
And the show itself is kind of bringing together both scientists, educators, artists, as well as children under one roof to really tell the story about both the Long Island Sound as well as the Hudson River that surrounds Westchester.
Right, but your company or your organization doesn't specifically about the Hudson River. It's about everything. It's because I looked on your website and I saw that you had an African and all kinds. Yes.
So it's really art focused.
Okay. All right. So would this be the kind of show then that your organization would do? You would go around in different venues and...
Yes, that's what we hope. Really, the core of it is really kind of using art as the focus, but through art educational outreach.
Okay.
So with the science base.
Okay.
So.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about this show, because when you walk in, there's a fabulous sculpture.
It's the central piece. We call it the tree of more aquatic life, per se. And it really represents the core of what the show is about. And it's a mix of both different found pieces of metal along the Hudson River.
But it's beautifully either polished or something. They've done something to these found pieces.
Yes. And Wilfredo Morel, the artist, really has a sensitive touch to how he really captured what the show was about. And it's an integration of not only water life, but also about human kind of life along the Hudson River. A lot of the pieces that you'll find has a part based on history. Whether it be the Singer factory or the Crayola factory, and all those little pieces come into play. And at the base itself are these beautiful shaped oysters. And
real oysters?
No.
But metal oysters? Are they metal?
Yes, the metal oysters. And they really are at the core or the heart of what the show is about, because oysters is really what founded New York. So you'll see kind of little pieces around repetition of the oysters kind of coming out around the show.
It's like a history,
a little bit of emphasis.
History and science and art. Now this is a site-specific piece that he developed for that space, or is that typical of his work?
It's for the show itself.
Okay, but that's not typical of his work?
He does wonderful kind of abstract pieces, but this was certainly specifically made for the show.
Yeah, and it's beautiful. So it's right there when you walk in. And then, didn't you have schools and...
Yes, we did have schools that came into play. We have high school, the Blue Mountain School up in Croton. We also had...
now they did art pieces?
Yes, and that's what's so wonderful about the show. It's kind of bringing into that educational aspect through art, kind of focusing on... the Blue Mountain School did a kind of recycled material about the species found along the Hudson River.
Okay.
So they had utilized a lot of duct tape and just different pieces, and they took a trip to the aquarium to learn about the species in the Long Island Sound.
Now, how does RARE did you authorize this? Did you teach? How did you work with the schools?
It's actually a mix depending on what the school's comfort level is. So all of our programs are kind of integrated into the school and working with the teacher or us guiding the actual class.
Sounds fascinating.
Yeah,
really
it's
great.
wonderful.
And let's just go back to the oyster thing, because you have also in this show a fisherman shack.
Yes. Tom Van Buren, who works with Arts Westchester, actually he did a wonderful job kind of putting that together, and both an intern and I kind of painted it to give it that old fisherman look. So, it was dirty work, but we were actually very lucky enough to have both the Long Island Maritime Museum loan us some wonderful equipment, old oystering equipment, some old traps, as well as we've been in contact with a few fishermen, what we call old water rats, who have just lived by the river, and they have generous enough to loan us, some of their fishing equipment as well to exhibit.
And then you have some tools there also?
We have baskets. We actually did a workshop that involved either basket weaving and how the Native Americans actually lived along the river.
Oh, really?
So we also implement educational workshops every other weekend to bring in that learning aspect as well.
So is there something that every week there was something for the kids or for the adults?
Actually, for both. We recently did, an upcoming one is we're working with the Department of Environmental Protection and who actually runs an eel program.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, and
do we have eels here?
Yes, we do, and they travel all the way from the Bermuda Triangle.
No kidding. And so tell us about some of the other things that are in this show.
Well, we have a wonderful I've heard a lot of people ooh and ah about our section upstairs, which is called "What's It Like to Be a Fish?"
Wow.
And we had two wonderful artists who I work closely with. And they did these beautiful murals, which I blew up. I took to a printer and blew up from floor to ceiling. And what it shows is the salt water on one end of the room, and then the fresh water on the other end. And they come and mix, which is what makes an estuary, and which is what Hudson River is. And they come to meet in the middle, which we have, which the space of Arts Westchester has these beautiful arched windows. So they meet together in this arched windows, and we've kind of created a stained glass kind of imagery.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, it's the intermixing. So.
But it's not really stained glass, it's just an image.
It's printed on a form of plexiglass.
Okay.
That gives it that kind of stained glass feel.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting show because you have a huge area that has, I don't want to call it garbage, but it's got...
Essentially, we did try to focus on using recycled materials, and we do have...
And was that done by some of the children in the schools, or was that done by an artist?
That was done by an artist, yes. And again, we do have the schools kind of intermixed in between that are around the show as well. Some of the other pieces was kind of a partnership between the youth bureaus, the Peekskill Youth Bureau, as well as the White Plains Youth Bureau. And it was a project focused on oysters. What Peekskill Youth Bureau was looking for was something that would tie in with Juneteenth, the celebration that they put on every year. And we had discovered through our research that the African Americans were the first culture that really, once freed, sustained themselves on oysters, and that's what started our oystering industry.
Really?
So, yes. Yes.
The amazing things you can learn by doing an art show.
Wonderful.
It's fabulous.
It's wonderful, and this is what we bring into the classroom.
Yes. Well, I think your organization is fabulous. I think the show is fabulous. I wish you lots of luck. I look forward to seeing many more shows.
Absolutely.
And I hope that everyone comes to see.
I hope so too, and they'll learn a little something along the way.
Yeah, and it's very interesting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.